GSA regulations require that begging be supervised at all times. Any unintended begging will be subject to confiscation. Any unintended begging should be reported immediately to your representative or law enforcement officer.
Uncle Des, are you able to mute your?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
Sorry.
I apologize. It's fine.
We can hear all the outgoing flight information. Okay, Chloe's back. Perfect. Okay,
Can I mention one thing real quick before we get started? Just so that everybody remembers, because we are on the cusp of a quorum, if we lose anybody, the meeting needs to stop. And this also means that all of you need to have your camera on at all times. Otherwise, you're sort of technically not really here. So if we do get another member who comes on, then we can have one person with a camera off, or if we lose somebody. But we are gonna have to be cognizant of if anybody does need to turn their camera off or step away for a moment, we're gonna have to pause.
Thank you, Jean.
Okay, are we good to begin?
Yes.
Aloha mai kako. Good morning, everyone. The hybrid meeting of the Cultural Resources Commission will now come to order. Quorum has been established with 5 members in attendance. Today is Wednesday, September 10, 2025. It is now 10:22 a.m. Pursuant to Act 220, Sessions Laws of Hawaii 2021, which amended the Sunshine Law to allow meetings to be remotely conducted online effective January 1st, 2022, the Cultural Resources Commission will host a hybrid meeting of online and in-person participants. An in-person location has been identified on the agenda for the public to provide testimony on agenda items and to view the meeting. This meeting can also be viewed live online. A link to the YouTube live stream is provided on the county website. The video recording will remain on the YouTube channel for those who are not able to watch it live. Reports and surveys reviewed during this hearing are available on the county website. Commissioners, please be reminded that only one person may speak at a time. Raise your hand to be recognized if you have a question or comment. Commissioners, please introduce yourselves and report if others are present in your location. I will start. I am Matt Clark, the chair of the commission, and I am alone in my office today. Uncle Des?
Aloha. Desmond Homea, Vice Chair here in Los Angeles, with about 2,000 people here. But just my wife and I. Aloha.
Hule?
Aloha kumehana o wau ku'ulei kia kealani a ohe kanaka makahale. I'm ku'ulei kia kealani. No one is home with me.
Ke aloha?
Aloha, my name is Kilo Kinney. I'm in my office and I'm alone.
And Janet?
Hi, I'm Janet. I'm in my office and I'm alone. Thank you.
CRC staff support joining us today are Bethany Morrison, Planning Program Manager, Kim Tanaka, Planner, Ashley DeVera, Board Secretary, Jean Campbell, Deputy Corporation Counsel. Pursuant to HRS 92-3, interested persons who want to provide oral testimony may do so either at the beginning of the meeting when the board takes public statements on the agenda or immediately before the specific agenda item is called. Staff, please indicate if there are any members of the public wishing to provide testimony online or in person.
Chair, there are no testifiers.
Thank you. That brings us to our first order of business, which is the Kona Open Space Network Draft Plan. And it looks like we have, Shannon, are you here to present on this? Please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, folks. My name is Shannon Architola. I'm planner for the Long Range Division. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to share this space with us this morning as we seek your guidance to help inform the next steps on this project. So I'll begin with a little background on the project to give some context, and then we can walk through the maps that highlight the open space sites. So give me a second, please. I'm gonna share my screen with you folks. Okay, can everyone see that okay?
Yes, we got it.
Okay. So the project is the Kona Open Space Network, and we'll get right into it. Okay, so the project goal aims to connect open spaces in the Kona district urban area harmoniously with the built environment to support the health and well-being of the community and preserve Kona's sensitive natural and cultural resources. The network strives to enhance opportunities for the community to access Kona's environmental resources for recreation, education, subsistence, and gathering. So Mayor Alameda spoke to the project, saying that by establishing an open space network, we can enhance recreational opportunities for our residents while protecting natural and historical resources. So an open space network, it's a system of interconnected open spaces. Open space is land not used for buildings or structures and characterized by scenic beauty, openness, and natural conditions. In the context of the project, we refer to these as our sites or open space sites. An open space hub is a component of the larger network and represents core gathering places within the network, illustrated on the map as these turquoise dotted lines or ovals you'll see here. So these are some of the benefits of the open space. So conserve natural, scenic, historic, cultural resources, enhances recreational opportunities, protects water, air, plants, wildlife, delineates natural hazard areas, and it benefits the social, environmental, and economic well-being of our community. So this project was born out of the Kona CDP. I've included the section that speaks to the open space network. So as you can see here, it highlights the objective and policy connected to the network, including hubs and links, public access management, and shared public areas. In the Kona CDP is page 4-66, in case you want to reference that. So here's the timeline of the project. So between 2005 and 2008, that's when the Kona CDP was developed and adopted. The open space network was a key cornerstone of the plan, and as noted on the previous slide. So between 2014 and 2017, excuse me, the Action Committee requests the support of Planning Department and forms a subcommittee. The subcommittee submits a formal report to the Action Committee, which includes KOSN visions and goals. And at that point, they recommend hiring a consultant. 2018 to 2019, the county approves CIP funding for this project. And in 2023, the Jacobs Engineering was awarded the contract to support the KOSN plan. In August of 2023, there's a project kickoff where about 100+ community members participated. After the kickoff, we held a number of workshops and meetings with the planning team, stakeholders, and subcommittee members to help shape the plan as it came together. Just this recently, in June, we hosted a community walkthrough to share the plan and hear input from the community members. So where are we now? So right now, we're connecting with key organizations, continuing to gather feedback and reviewing it together with our planning team and subcommittee members. Moving forward, we will be identifying potential projects and partnerships, which is part of the implementation plan. Before year end, we plan to have a community celebration where we will share out the final report and implementation plan with the community. So this is a summary of the sites, although we're open to any input that you folks have or guidance on the plan itself or the sites. These are the sites that we're highlighting for this discussion. As a side note, the list of sites included in the transmittal to the commission earlier, it matches the sites highlighted here. However, the site numbers may vary slightly since they were based on an earlier draft. But just to reiterate, the sites remain the same. So in the next few slides, we'll walk through each section of the project area to allow for an opportunity for open discussion. So this is the first section. And at this point, I invite any questions, any discussion items, any thoughts, input, and those will be collected to help inform as we move forward. So do folks have any thoughts on these sites shared here? Or if you see any issues, please let us know.
Shannon, can you walk, just to orient folks, walk through folks the legend of what we're looking at here?
Sure. So in the yellow, I've circled the historical cultural sites. So as you see, we have 25 Ho'ona Fishing Village, 37 and 78. So the legend next to it, so there's certain trails called out. There's existing vehicular path, there's proposed paths. Some of them are trails, some are accessible, some are partially accessible. And then planned proposed projects are in the dotted line. But the open space hubs are the large circles, the turquoise circles. So that's kind of a centralized gathering location of numerous of the open space sites.
Aloha, Shannon.
Aloha kule.
Aloha, Mai. I just had a thought or a question here. I saw on your list, might you go back to that list of the sites? I thought I saw Hapaiali'i Heiau. Yeah, 20. Hapaiali'i Heiau. I guess my thought there is that is on Kamehameha School, Bishop Estate lands, right? So I'm gonna assume perhaps maybe don't want to assume, but that part of your partnerships or whatnot are going to be with individual landowners such as this Hulihe'e Palace. So, not all of these sites are on state lands. So that would probably be, and then you're looking at federal too, right? When you're looking at Aiopio, Aimakapa, those are also lands, federal, right, within a federal national park. So I'm guessing that these folks are already perhaps on the table and was in the selection process. So I guess maybe twofold. One is, the different land ownership of state, federal, private ownership, and then that how you folks went about in the selection of these particular sites. Mahalo.
Thank you for that question. So the selection of the sites was, so the list that you're looking at here, it's a combination of discussions with the community folks from the community engagement. It's the subcommittee members who felt that these sites should be uplifted through the plan, as well as some of the stakeholders. So we have been in discussions with them and sent out information. So we're still reaching out to some organizations. So like you mentioned, Kamehameha Schools is one of them. And the ability to potentially do projects in certain areas, that's one of the factors we're looking at. Are these landholders willing to work with us to include these spaces in our sites? Commissioner Homea.
Yeah, aloha, Shannon.
Hi,
There's
aloha.
Chair. I've noticed some,
Oh,
I think we might have lost Uncle Des. Maybe Kealoha, go ahead. You're muted.
Oh, sorry.
Quorum.
Yeah, yeah, I just had a quick question, or I guess kind of a thought. Looking at this from the perspective of the proposed trails and access roads and so forth. I guess one thing that would be I'd like to see, I guess, is the sort of distribution of archaeological sites within these proposed hubs. Because you know, you
Sorry,
have
Commissioner Kinney, we're having a hard time hearing. And Chair with Uncle Des dropping, we've actually lost quorum.
He's right, he's back.
Oh, he's coming back in. He's coming back in. One moment.
Okay. Yeah, do we know what that source of sound
I
is?
don't
Oh, much better now, whatever just
sounds
happened.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so anyways, I guess I'm not sure what everybody heard or didn't hear, but you know, within these proposed hubs, you have these proposed access routes. And I guess what I'd like to see, or what I think would be useful, is kind of a distribution of archaeological sites within these hubs. And you know, of course, that's not something you would want to like share publicly, but for kind of thinking about where these access routes are crossing and how they interact with some of these sites, could be useful and helpful. Yeah. So I guess that's, and maybe that was already a consideration, because it seems like you have these culture sites that have been picked out, which, you know, of course, all of them are super important and, you know, places that we want to preserve. But it seems like there are a lot of other sites that kind of surround that. And I just wonder about the interaction of these two things, the planned access and the distribution of these sites. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Are there additional sites that you folks feel should be included in the plan? I mean, we're absolutely open to hearing if there's other sites, but also there's the sensitivity, which we also lean on you folks to see if maybe we don't want to highlight it too much or bring too much attention to it. So we were trying to find that fine line between, you know, sharing these sites and making sure to include them for preservation, but also not causing any disruptions to them. But if there are additional sites that we should include, please feel free to share.
There are a couple of commissioners with their hands up, and just before I call on you, I assume as part of this, you will be complying with chapter 343, doing an EA potentially, as well as doing, which would include chapter 60, doing archaeological surveys and all of that. So I think that's something that will probably be addressed through that process.
Yes.
I did see, sorry, Uncle Des, I know you dropped off. Janet had her hand up, and then I'll call on you next.
Anyway, I just want to say if Shannon doesn't know, I'm the county archaeologist from Maui County. I live on the Big Island. I just pulled up the state Hawaii Cultural Information Resource System, and there are choke sites and choke burials everywhere. So Kealoha, thank you for bringing that up. I have access to data that has been recorded. Now, that's not everything that's in the area, but I think it's really valid to not just compartmentalize more and have just this hub and that hub and look at the larger landscape. But there's been AIS, as Matt clearly done, for a lot of these parcels. And I think that's why they're looking at these open spaces, because there's a preponderance of burials as well as sacred sites. And then there's the interconnectivity of these sites. Forget the modern TMKs. So I think looking at the landscape as a cultural landscape and really understanding and understanding where access is appropriate. So I just wanted to say, Shannon, if you want to reach out to me, I do have access to data that is normally privileged. So if you want me to share that at some point, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Uncle Des, go ahead, and then Kealoha will get to you next.
Hello, Shannon, Uncle Des.
Hello,
Just,
Uncle Des.
you know, they asked my questions already. Thank you, Janet, Matt, and Kealoha. I was involved in this in 2009 with the mayor back then. But my question was the Borough Council. I know Kaloko is in front of the Borough Council now. And several of these others is going to be coming up. Has the Borough Council been any plans to visit with the Borough Council with this? The other concern is to echo Kealoha's concern. You know, we cannot control our tourism where they come and desecrate our cultural sites. So I would ask that we figure out a pathway for, I understand open spaces and things like that, but we also want to protect these cultural sites as much as we can. Basically, that's what I was going to talk about that, the Kealoha covered, and Matt, especially the EA, and what Janet said, there's a lot of sites, but they're really unprotected at this point. So, and there was the concern back in 2010 and 2011. Yeah, just that. Sorry for the background noise.
Thank you, Uncle Des.
Mahalo. Kealoha.
Yeah, I had a quick question because I noticed your hubs like extend out into the ocean, and I'm just kind of thinking about it, you know, and maybe you're going to get to this in your presentation or it's in the story map, but I guess I wondered, will you be trying to preserve like the cultural landscape out and that open space, even into the ocean, like, you know, in terms of, I don't know, aquaculture endeavors and other things that obstruct our views of the ocean in these spaces. Was that part of the plan as well, or is it just you happen to make a circle and it fell outside?
Thank you
Just
for that
curious.
question. The scope did not include aquaculture or ocean. It was just part of the illustration of highlighting those spaces. But thank you for that, because it's something that you should consider moving forward.
Yeah, mahalo. I guess I would just add to this discussion before we move on. I didn't see any of the Ponk properties that I know are kind of along Ali'i Drive on this list. And I think that would be a good consideration since they are county-owned properties. They are open space already. And I could point out Puapua Iki is a good one along the coast that maybe should be added to the list.
Thank you.
I think I don't see any hands up. So if you want to keep going,
Okay.
feel free.
So the next few slides are basically just breaking up. There's 5 sections of the project area and just going through so we can have a discussion of each, or we can kind of just skim through, and then there's always an opportunity for folks to provide feedback. If something comes up later that you think of that you want to share with us, then please do. So here we have map 2, and we have 1, 2, 4, 5 sites for review in this area. Were there any particular questions here? Should we move on to the next map?
I guess I'm curious, what activities are planned here? Is it in these open spaces, you're going to create a network of trails for hiking, and are there other activities that you're planning in these areas?
So that's going to be part of the implementation plan. So currently we're identifying the sites, checking in with groups and whatnot to finalize the Kona open space sites. And then from there, we are working towards implementation. So we don't have the resources or to be able to improve all these areas, but we need to decide which hubs we could improve that would help and provide the greatest benefit for the community. So the EA, all those things. So as far as specific plans, it really depends on the area that we choose. So a big part of the discussion has been pedestrian walking paths, safe bike lanes for folks to use alternate modes of transportation. So I know that's a big focus that we've been hearing from folks, because a lot of the roads that people want to ride on or walk on, they're not safe. So that's one of them, but other plans could be low cost things like signage, maybe education for these sites to show folks why, the history of them, why they're important. We visited some of the sites and the signage was kind of lacking. Maybe it's older, you can't really read it, but if folks can understand why these sites are significant, then I'm hopeful that everyone will be more respectful of these places. So there's the specific implementation projects have yet to be determined, and discussions as far as administration has a part of it too, because we also do need to get approval from them. So later on next week, we're having discussions with the other agencies within the county to see if they have current projects that we can kind of piggyback on, or if they're willing to help us with implementation. So that'll be part of the next steps.
And one follow-up question is, as part of the identification of these sites, I suppose that will it be county put extra protections on them in terms of limiting what development can happen within and nearby, or added review of those so that these open spaces can be maintained? And as Kealoha mentioned, views of the ocean or the mountains are maintained as well from these open spaces.
So by including them on this plan, we're planning to take this to council and have it adopted, hopefully. And so that'll inform future development, and keep it on folks' radar as far as acknowledging these spaces. Bethany, do you have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I think part of the implementation obviously is, are there, what are the levers that the county has for maintaining and preserving these open spaces? So obviously there are zoning considerations that we might look at for implementation. And then, as well as Shannon mentioned, what improvements need to be made to these spaces, whether it's interpretive signage or trail construction, those type of things. So it's kind of a, what's in the county's kuleana that we can use to preserve and improve these spaces.
Mahalo. I think if there's no other questions on this slide, you can move on.
Here's map 3 of the project area.
Any questions or comments, anyone?
Yeah, I do. Hi again, Shannon.
Hello.
Just wondering about 64 parcel Natural Spring. Is this particularly the one right next to Hulihe Palace, or is this perhaps the Waiokane that's like in the kai? The circle kind of takes us out into the ocean, into the kai, and there is a natural spring out there too. So is that the one you guys are maybe referring to, or the one just immediately adjacent to Hulihe Palace? I was just wondering about that.
Yes, so parcel 64, it's inland. So it's near Hulihe'e ABC store. it's a vacant parcel and currently is privately owned, unfortunately, but by putting it here, it's on our radar because it is something we want to really preserve, but conversations with the landowner will be another thing. So
Yeah, mahalo anui.
thank you.
You know, in concept and whatnot, there's definitely support and feel the same about, okay, no buildings, preservation, those sorts of things. And then when you look at the array perhaps of sites that have been identified, and there's specific practices, right, that go along with individual sites. So there's quite a lot of heiau earmarked here, and there are certain practices. I will use Hapaiali'i for an example as active, that we will find ourselves there, solstice, equinox, there are ceremonies that are continued. And so these practices that are associated, and not just the heiau, right? You look at Aimakapa, Aiopio, Loke folks at Kalokohonokohau, very active in the restoration of those fish ponds. Cousin Benson folks are very the maintenance of the local kuapa walls, and so the practices, again going back to that are associated with these different places. I think one of my questions too is so having it designated maybe or whatnot in this open space, does it add benefit perhaps to the already ongoing work that is happening, say at Aimakapa, or perhaps then you go to maybe the other end of the spectrum where you're looking at Ahuena Heiau, and that there's minimal to maybe, I don't know that it's a frequently visited site, and maybe by a select few, maybe not. But if we're gonna then open perhaps access to these places, there's kuleana associated with access to these places. So that would be one of my big and major thoughts here is surely we can lay down protections and we can say that we want to preserve, conserve these areas. And then I heard you say walking, right, the trails, bikes and whatnot, which to me brings people into spaces that may or may not be presently frequented. And okay, sure, signage, that's a passive way to to come up to a sign and read it and maybe disregard it. Is we're going to rely on the consciousness of that person reading to be respectful of the information that's given in this sign. And hopefully, right, there's rightful and good action that happens once they read the site, they understand more about this particular area, its significance. But there is also a worry that we open spaces, we open trails, we open access per se to these significant, important places, and sometimes I find the reliance on a sign for someone to make pono action is worrisome, troublesome to some extent, because there can be a total disregard of this information, and like, I don't care. I'm gonna do what I like. I'm gonna go where I like. I'm gonna take my bike and I'm going over here. Even if this sign tell me my bike is really not, but I'm going anyway. You know what I mean? So there's just, and I'm sure you folks have, and I hope carefully considered those things, but there is big kuleana that goes with access to places. And so just want to voice that and put that out. And I'm sure again that has been contemplated and careful consideration to the practices associated with the various sites that we're seeing. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Mahalo, Kule. Yeah, and I think one thing that maybe you could consider as part of the implementation of the plan is maybe identifying funding sources to partner with stewardship groups or maybe appropriate folks to take care of those areas, and to partner with them so that you do have folks who live in the area and are associated with these sites, keeping an eye on them and helping to maintain these important areas.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Kool-Aid, I believe that spring is Puhi Spring, which EE mentions, which was right there. I think it got filled in, but it's yeah, there's a lot of history associated with that. Anyone else on this page, or should we move on to the next? Looks like I don't see any other hand. Oh, Janet has her hand up.
I'm sorry, I'm listening and I'm looking at the news at the same time. With the signage interpretation, and I'm not always going to bring Maui in, but we're trying to do at Maui Beach Parks, especially with Iwi Kapuna and culturally sensitive sites, is to do storyboards or story maps, and then have a QR code, because we want to give people as much information. And yeah, everyone's concern is people will read the sign, ignore it, do whatever, and it's always a double-edged sword, opening up any kind of important cultural or sacred spaces to people that do not have any knowledge. So it's just one thing that we're trying to do. That may be helpful with interpretive signage. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands up. Oh, I do. Uncle Des, please.
I just wanted to echo everybody else's concern. We did build signage down in Puna, and as you can tell through social media and the local news, that they don't care about signs. Our local people would, some of them would, but many of our young ones, they're the one that will cross the line and just desecrate the whole area. I just wanted to share that word open space concerns me and concerns everybody here on this commission. And that it frightens me, just the terminology of open space. It was concern of mine back in 2010. It's like just go, never mind, because there's actually no enforcement of those signs. They just left up there for interpretation. And I think that's a problem. Also the suggestion about funding for, Kule mentioned Auena. We visited there as a member of the Royal Order and Order of Kamehameha. But I think the hotel is the one that's responsible for keeping that place clean, because the luau shows, they do, that's part of their show, yeah. But I've been there when, especially during the Queen's race, some people were already on there taking pictures and things like that. So signage is good, but it really doesn't work at this point, as experienced out in Puna. So somehow that narrative of signage, the narrative of open spaces needs to be reworked and revisited again, so that yeah, I understand, Janet, because you want to, but if you're going to talk about the history on the signage, my goodness, it's it's about 500 signs out there. And I understand that, but there should be a solution. And I don't see any solution, especially if this is all sacred places. Yeah, when you talk about cultural sites, that's ancestral, and that's what we're trying to protect. And I know I can speak for the commission. You're really concerned about development. Working from the county to the state to the federal. It's a huge monumental task to overcome this. And this was even when Mitch brought me on the commission, he talked about that. My concern is, if some federal land, we got to pay to get up to volcanoes. Somehow, some kind of regulation needs to address this concern that we all have here on the commission. How we going to do that? It's not in my wheelhouse, but that should be made part of this plan and implementation. The other one is the community needs to know before funding goes out and RFPs are submitted and approved. It's like we need to be part of the process, not be told later on, this is what we did and this is what we're going to do. That's all I have for that.
Hello, Janet, do you have another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. We put signs up at H. Kai, and people took them down immediately, stole them within a week. But the way a story map works, Uncle Des, is you have a little QR code, you click it on your phone, you would get all access to lots of information, not on the sign itself. So some people are interested in knowing the history. Not everyone's going to read it, not everyone's going to go there, but we do want to try to provide people context. We're dealing with kite surfers that want to launch on a beach that is completely filled with EV. So they had no idea. So sometimes sharing information, even though it's very sensitive, can sometimes open people's minds. So it's a challenge, but I hear you. Signage doesn't always work. People are always going to just do what they want or take the sign down or shoot it with a paintball gun or whatever. So I just wanted to say thank you for your input.
Mahalo, Kealoha.
Yeah, just adding, I guess, to the conversation. I think what Auntie Kule said was super important. I think it's might be the most important thing we talk about with regard to this plan. And I'm looking at the definition of what you call a hub. It's an open space, park, recreation, cultural site, education site, coastline areas, natural vantage points. And then it looks like it's a link is defined as an element linking a bike that could include a bikeway, pedestrian path, hiking trail, linear park, scenic corridors, heritage corridors, public access ways, and floodways. I guess what I would posit, through this discussion, I guess what it made me think of is that the links should really be the Kuleana. It should be the people, the people stewarding these spaces. Those are the links. The hubs is fine. I get the hubs. But the links are not just a geographic feature. The links are people. So anyways, I would throw that into your consideration as you move forward with conceptualizing this plan.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands up if you'd like to move on to the next slide. Shannon, what are the numbers that are on there but don't have anything on the right? So I see like 72 and 71.
So those are other sites. So you just want to know what those sites are?
Oh, I think I know what they are. I was just curious why
Okay.
they're just, yeah, they're not called out, or why is the yellow around the two sites?
So I try to focus on certain sites to guide our conversation. But
Okay.
if there's thoughts on those sites, we can absolutely visit them. Let me
I think the 72 is one of the punk properties I was talking about that is already one of those purchases that should, yeah, it looks like it is within this area.
Yeah, we did have at least one or two punk parcels, and I think there's at least one that was the subcommittee was hoping to have punk purchase.
Anyone else? Anything to add?
Yes, I do again. Kalamai. Well, I guess let's see. So the Keolanahihi site is definitely one. You can probably see my last name and see the association to that particular site and the ali'i associated thereof. So yeah, I don't know. I actually just can't find the words, I think, at this point, but again, to look at access into these places and spaces that would call like the Heiau or any place. It doesn't matter if it's the Lokoi'a or the Alakahakai or the Keolanahihi complex. Utmost reverence is necessary for any and all of these sites. And so just again, the concern to open the space. But I know I get it, right? That there's the thought of the conservation and preservation. No buildings can go on these places. Yes, yes, yes to those. Thanks, Kealoha, for actually reading through that definition too. Because for me, when I hear this word recreation, recreate, there is a conflict. There is a conflict there with what I was talking about earlier, the practices associated. We wouldn't go and visit these sites to recreate. They are very specific, and for some of these places, deep ceremony that would, like, we cannot use one certain color if we're entering into a particular ceremony at a particular place because of the ceremony that it calls for. So just again to reiterate, I think Uncle Des, all of our Ke Aloha, every single one of us, the thought of being extremely careful and the kuleana associated to opening these spaces to folks that may not necessarily know the associated practices and what you do and do not do in these places. And this is what I mean about perhaps relying on the sign to say and this word is tossed out all the time, the sensitivity or extreme sensitivity of these places and spaces. I even saw a cave, that there's a cave on here. Well, that's a law. You cannot enter into a cave. Okay, right. So you see what we're saying, right, Shannon, that there's going to be potential points of conflict or static when we're going to look at boom, laying down something that's to recreate. Well, let me go ride my bike through this area. No aole. You're not going to ride your bike through Keola Nahihi complex. Just I want to say that those are the things that need to be really carefully. And again, people of place, because there have been many folks along the way and throughout the decades who have dedicated life work and whatnot to malama of these places. And so as to be mindful of the things that have been done and the efforts that have been put forth in the past, presently. We're on the continuum. We assume our places in our lifetime to malama the things that we can, and then we're raising the next generation to assume their place in the continuum of the malama of these places. So I want to say, right, we're all in this together, that we are we co-steward, we malama these places and spaces together to the best of our abilities. So these are the things that we should be discussing. Is there conflict with recreation and preservation of a site? I put that out there for our again, contemplation, careful consideration and contemplation. Mahalo again.
Mahalo, Uncle Des.
You know, everybody on the commission here, we are practitioners of our culture. We are protectors of our culture. What concerns me is the word hail. Hail to our ancestors is our church. You know, not all our other churches, all the religions, you cannot just walk through. And that concerns me. And that was something I shared with Mitch back then. That word hail means it is hurtful for our kupuna, our makua. And if we're gonna do this, what are we teaching our children? The significance and the spiritual essence, the mana of Heiau. And I'd say just no haole. If you're gonna attach that word Heiau to a particular space and make it an open space, I say haole. I'm sorry, but we cannot have that unless there's some type of I don't know. I mean, QR code or something, but you know, we need to protect these sites for tomorrow, for our kids, and the legacy that our current mayor, is going to leave behind for our children is concerned, should be concerned of the county council as well as our mayor. That what we need, the legacy we're going to leave tomorrow for our children is what concerns me. If that word is hell, is going to be on these open spaces. I say, ole. I'm sorry, but I cannot support that.
Thank you, Uncle Des. We definitely, if that's a request, we can definitely look at removing that. We'll bring all these recommendations and thoughts to our planning team and the subcommittee, because these are very important and I appreciate your folks' input on this.
I'll just add to this discussion. I don't know if it helps, but in Keolanahihi is it's a state parks land, and they did recently get money to start a study to help protect, and I think access would be something that state parks would have to take care of on those lands in particular. And their track record is whatever it is. So I just wanted to add that in there. It's another layer of maybe protection. Yeah, I think we can move on. I don't see any hands up. Oh, Kealoha.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the Ku'umo'o area, and I noticed they have a proposed path through that area, and I was wondering, was that something that was requested by those Wahana from that space and the people that steward that space?
I
It's kind of
can't speak to, sorry, go ahead.
Did Kealoha, you there? Oh,
yeah, I'm here. Is
I
that
I believe that's the existing government road that
dedicated?
goes through there. I think I just recently was out there that's a Kamehameha Schools lands, and they are looking at updating the National Register nomination for that site, and there is that existing path that goes along the coast there.
Oh, it's an existing path. It's
I believe so. I think that's
okay.
I'd have to look
Maybe
more closely, but I think it's the road that goes to the end of the world there and continues on to south along
yeah,
the coast.
maybe it's a yeah, maybe I was looking at it. In the other legend, the pink was a proposed like path or something, but I guess in this one it's already exists. Is that right? Is that what you're saying,
I'm not
Maya?
100% sure. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of
Looking at
follows
it,
that line. But, yeah.
yeah, there's an existing, um,
Because the other one, it was like the pink was like a bike trail or something, right? No? I don't know. Sorry. Getting confused with all the colors and everything. My bad.
I think down there is one of the issues is it's technically private land by Kamehameha Schools, and so maybe that's why it does say plan proposed projects, right?
Yeah, and then the hub kind of doesn't extend all the way over to it, it's kind of like outside outside of the hub, yeah. I don't know, it just kind of stuck out for me. I was just curious. Thanks.
Does anyone else have any questions, comments on this? Janet.
I don't have as much knowledge of this particular area as many of you folks, but for me, there's a little Barnum and Bailey like picking sites without any context to other sites that would have surrounded these, saying, oh, this is a heiau, this is a burial site, but there's so many sites that connected these, so it's a little bit again celebrating certain things, and it isn't my kuleana, but I think it's important what everyone has mentioned about how people behave in sacred spaces. If you're going to open up burial sites or heiau, as Uncle Des mentioned, it's just a concern. But also when you just feature these individual things without looking at the larger context, so maybe there is development, but maybe if there's a way to show how these are all connected and how from the archaeology that's been done, all the other sites that are not deemed as significant, but would have had a role in this. So that sometimes when you just pick out little things, it can be a little not comprehensive, not holistic. Thanks.
Thank you. Mahalo, Janet. I just wanted to kind of take off of that. On the last slide you had, I think Puapua'a along the coast was circled. And I think to Janet's point that we had a permitted action group that we had visited Kukui'ula Heao that is directly correlated and associated with that ahupua'a. Then you get to Kealakova'a. I mean, she's absolutely right in that there it's not in isolation, perhaps one site standalone, but rather there is an association as we had. So if that one is circled Puapua'a Pono, maybe it's right outside of it. Nevertheless, right to that point of singular, just kind of a standalone, as opposed to in the cultural context and the cultural landscape view and Kuana Ike Hawaii, it is not a standalone. It is associated with what might the spring that might be in the Kai, and then the heiau that's up a little bit more Mauka, what on the forest edge, or that's also important to in the considerations too of what's being put forward. So that vantage point and that perspective of it being interconnected and woven into the whole tapestry of what makes this the cultural landscape is, I think we're driving that point home, I think, pretty well today in our conversations and our dialogues, which is wonderful to have these kinds of conversations and everybody can add to this is Maikai. Mahalo again.
Uncle Des, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that a lot of these sites has come through the Borough Council with lineal descendants. I know that whenever there's a spring inland, it goes into the Kai. That's that's where you establish your fish ponds and things like that. But yeah, I just echo everybody, and it's a great presentation, Shannon. But you know, um, credit to you for your work, and your presentation is awesome. But this is a strong commission we have, and we have a lot of knowledge and experience in this from even from all the way down the line. So I think we've established our coexistence in this project, our manao and our mana that has been included here. And just mahalo you for your work, which will now continue at a larger scale. But I understand, this was placed on your desk to work it, and you're on the front line with us here. So, take that home with you, take that to work, but it also should reflect on you and who you are too as you proceed with this project. Yeah, I just wanted to say that this is mahalo you. I know it's not easy, but it's actually really easy when you look to the lens of our kupuna and to the lens of our kepu. Yeah, it established a firm, a good foundation to grow from. Yeah, mahalo.
Thank you, Uncle Des.
Mahalo. Anyone else like that? Anything right now? And Shannon, do you have more slides that you wanted to get through?
The last slide was just to share and lift up the subcommittee folks who have been working on this project probably for about 20 years now. So that's all. And that wraps up my presentation.
Yeah, I would say mahalo. I think we all really appreciate the effort to help protect these places and keep them from being developed, and to, you know, have these areas that will be links to the past through the people and all of that. And maybe we can consider, you know, I think we would all like to be kept apprised of what's going on. And I know you're just in the beginning of the planning process, and there's going to be a lot more work done. And, you know, I think Des brings up a good point, Uncle Des, about, you know, maybe considering how we name things, and maybe they're not open spaces open to do whatever, but they're spaces for other practices, and we can think about that as we move forward. Was there something that you were looking in for particular from us from this meeting? Was it a recommendation for more sites, or just this is informational and our feedback has been good enough so far?
Basically, all of this that you folks provided is very helpful, and this is the reason we wanted to bring this to you folks, because we know that there's a wealth of knowledge here. And we really want to move forward into the next steps, doing it the right way. So thank you. I think, I'm not sure if it's an option, but it was mentioned that it's possible this commission could put together a letter with recommendations.
Yeah.
But this is recorded, so we will take notes on what we're sharing today too. I'm not sure if our other support staff want to chime in and see if that's an option. Then we can have a formal document stating from the commission.
Yeah, I know we can put together a letter, and then I'll Uncle Des, I'll let you jump in here, but I think we need to know if we need to make a motion to write that letter, or if it's just something that we can do. Go ahead, Uncle Des.
Oh, just to add to that, you know, we talked about it. Janet talked about it. Signage. I think the problem is enforcement. You know, you put up rules. You know, we do all these complaints, and all these people still jump in on signs, but maybe a part of this recommendation is who's going to enforce these rules, who's going to regulate it first, and who's going to enforce it. Because especially on the federal end, if they conduct themselves in a criminal activity, that's a federal offense as well as a state offense. So part of the recommendation is to identify who's going to enforce that. One of them, if he's going to identify, like for instance, Ahuena, say we're going to hire the royal order to monitor that, you know, what is the requirement to enforce that? Is there visiting hours? Is somebody going to do, one of the things we're doing in Kumukahi is to create a heritage site. So people come, they have to check in first. I think Hule knows that yeah, where you work, you know, you gotta check in first, and that's one level of security, or one level of education and enforcement and auditing and compliance. But that's another area I recommend that you look at. How are we going to enforce these rules? I'm pretty sure you want to keep that open space, but like the narrative should be changed. But that's my concern. Who's going to stand guard? Mahalo.
Commissioners, any other questions, comments? I see no. I guess this is a question to staff or Jean. To write a letter with our recommendations that we discussed here, do we need to make a motion, or can we just use the testimony? Oh, go ahead, Uncle Des.
No, I just want to make a motion to accept that we create a letter with the Gene's approval, that we create a letter to acknowledge our position on this project.
So you have kind of two procedural options for how to do that. And it sounds like the group does want to draft a letter. And so you can either do it one of two ways. You can have, you know, Matt or any member work with staff to put a letter together that you would bring back to the whole commission to, you know, for approval, and then it would be sent on. Or in the alternative, you could authorize one member to work with the staff to essentially summarize what you've said today, and then that member, presumably Matt as the chair, could sign it and send it on without bringing the letter back to the commission for the whole group's approval. So you sort of have two options there.
Uncle Des, would you like to revise your motion based on that input?
Yeah, man, if you want to, if somebody wants, I don't have any problems logging in and getting to speak and stuff like that, but I guess it's, according to Gene, the first motion should be to approve a motion to create a letter to this project first, right?
Yeah, and then I think what we have to decide is, do we want the letter to come back for the whole council to review, the whole commission to review before we send it on, or would
Oh,
you
yeah,
like
yeah,
to
definitely.
authorize
Yeah, to
us
come
to
back to
write it?
commission, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
come back to the commission to review.
yes,
Okay.
that's my motion.
So Uncle Des has made a motion to draft a letter with recommendations from the CRC that will come back to the CRC commissioners to review before it's sent.
Yes.
And I suppose I would be the one working with staff to do that. So can I have a second? Does that make a motion?
I think Gene is good at that, you know.
Okay. So we have a motion seconded, proposed by Commissioner Haumea, seconded by Commissioner Kinney, to draft a letter with our recommendations from this meeting, and then I'll work with staff to do that, and then the letter will come back for review from the whole commission before we send it. All in. Do I need a group vote here? Let's see. I guess all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, the motion passes, and Shannon, we will provide you with our input in a written letter. We'll get that drafted, and hopefully at the next meeting be able to review it and send it out to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anything else on this matter before we move on? Mahalo for the presentation, and we are looking forward to staying in touch on this project. That brings us to administrative matters, approval of minutes from the August 13th, 2025 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Cultural Resources Commission meeting held on August 13th, 2025?
I move to approve the minute meetings from August 2025.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it was moved by Commissioner Six and seconded by Commissioner Kekelani. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, minutes are approved as circulated. Any other administrative matters anyone wants to bring up? I guess I would ask staff from the permitted interaction group that we were supposed to do to Kauai High. Have we any news on that?
Kim, can you speak to that? I think we have our first meeting coming up on September 24th at 11 a.m. and we can do Zoom, kind of a hybrid in our conference room. For that, I think we were still needing Janet. Can you confirm your availability for that?
I'm actually going to be at a drone conference in Seattle, but I don't know with the time change, I might be able to still Zoom, you know what I mean? But I do have a conference on the 23rd and 24th.
Okay.
Sorry. I wasn't sure I was going, but I'm going now. So that's why I didn't get back.
So this first meeting, I think, was just to kind of pull the permitted interaction group together and sort of march out what the plan is, how the group will proceed. Is that something that you definitely want to participate in? So we should find a different date, or is that something that you are okay with us proceeding?
I'm okay with you proceeding, and also I'm not ruling out that I can't make a Zoom meeting. I'd want to look at the time difference, the 11 o'clock, and when the conference, if it's a daytime, or I just registered for it, so I can get back to you. I will try to participate, but I'm fine with you going forward without me.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. Any other administrative matters before we move on?
Just a question.
I move to adjourn.
Sorry, we're not quite there yet. I think Gule had one question first.
Sorry, Uncle, we go adjourn shortly. It's not a site visit to Hawaiʻi. It's
Oh.
Zoom.
No,
Okay, thank you.
There's a motion on the floor.
Okay, sorry. Next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. Staff, are there any additional announcements?
no other announcements.
Okay, this is for you, Uncle Diaz. This concludes the items on this agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? I guess we already have that. Can I have a second?
Second.
Hurry up, somebody.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Mahalo, everyone.
Aloha. Hello,
Thank
everybody.
you. Aloha.
Oh, no.